What is up, everybody? Today we are going to do some performance upgrades to the M3, and these are kind of necessary performance upgrades because if you guys remember at the track a few weeks ago, I had this clinking noise. And we took a look at it to try and determine what it might be. While we were at the track, we were having a hard time determining what it might be, so we kind of assumed that it might be the control arm bushing, because that's not what it's supposed to look like. But we ultimately determined that was not the issue, and we ultimately found out this was the issue. Raise it. Nonetheless, that's not something you want necessarily happening to the car, so I had to go ahead and get those bushings replaced. So I did many countless hours of research on solid control arm bushings and which ones that I wanted to put in my car based off other people's ratings, highest performance, things like that. And after many hours of research, I finally decided on the ones they had in stock. Now, the ones they had in stock just so happened to be the ground control option. I find ground control to make their products look a little gaudy, but other than that, performance is what I was looking for, and their performance is good. So that's why I went with the ground control. Now, I obviously have never run them, so I don't fully know. I learn things as I go based off of my experience with them, but for now I'm going with that based off of other people's reviews. I also got rear control arm bushings that we're going to do in a different video just because it's a completely different process. It has its own challenges, so I'm not going to address that today. I'm just going to go ahead and get both of these put in. Now, this is a nice thing about the M3. It has this really nice metal brace at the bottom to hold everything together and also protect the engine bay and all the engine components. But that means I have to remove way too many of these 16mm bolts all the way around it, and a few of these little 8mm bolts also all the way around it. So this is the passenger side one. This is the one that ultimately failed, and this is the replacement one in its place right now. So I guess I'm going to start with this one. It should be easy to take out. I don't remember how tight these torqued are. Not bad. I swear I remember them being a lot tighter. We'll see if this one's easy to take off with just my hands. I think it will be. I'm not surprised that was easy to take off with my hands, because I greased it pretty heavily before putting it back on. I'm gonna get the driver's side off before we move on to the next step. I don't expect it to be this easy to get off though. Well, this guy's pretty well on there. Let's see if this thing can help me out here, because I don't have any better solutions. I tried a mallet, that didn't work. I know mallet's the universal tool, so if the universal tool's not working, I'm gonna have to change it up a little bit here. And with a little bit of persuasion, I was able to get them both out. Now, if you're not familiar with what this tool's called, I think it's called a 3-arm puller, 3-jaw puller. Can't remember the proper name, but I'll throw a list of tools that might help down in the description, because I actually use this to remove that one as well. But that one, like I said, was pretty easy to just pull out with my hands. Now, time to address the challenges that we have on the front. Now, as I'm sure you can very clearly see, this guy isn't just going to go on there. It needs one of these. But I could not get these on time. These were just as much back ordered as all the other versions of these. So I need to reuse the factory brackets to mount these in too. That's going to pose a challenge that I don't fully know how I'm going to get past, but I'm going to test what my theory is using this front one that's already busted, because it's not going to hurt anything to try and pull this out, because I have a replacement for it. Now, hopefully I can film this alright, but this tool right here that I have is actually the tool that you use to pull the rear bushings out of the rear control arm. But how it's supposed to work is that this goes on the back of the bushing, and then this goes on the front, and it goes through there, threaded on, and then you tighten this, pulling this along. This will push on one end of the bushing, or on the bracket the bushing's in, and this will push on the bushing, and then the whole thing will get pulled out as this pulls in. Now, this just so happens to be the right size for this, and this just so happens to fit on the outside of this. The tool's not meant to do it for the fronts, but it looks like it might work for the fronts. So this is how it's going to be set up. Now I've got to try and ratchet this thing to pull the bushing out of the housing. Hopefully this works. Now that I got these bearings out of these housings after way too much work, it's time to reverse that process and shove this one into that space. The front needs to be the front of the housing, the part that says ground control, not the smaller part on the back, has to be facing the front of the car, and this is the front of the bracket that needs to go into. So I'm going to try the same process but in reverse. I'm going to then clamp this into here, and then if I ever have to remove it, I'll just replace this whole housing here and this guy, because the only reason I'd ever replace this is if it ever breaks, which I don't see that happening with the build quality, but we'll see. Are you kidding me? Seriously right now. I don't know how to put it, guys, but I'm defeated. I have tried everything in my power with all the tools that I have to get this to go into here, and it goes sideways. It doesn't work. I've tried hammers, I've tried that tool that I was using to take out the bearings. Nothing works, and it's way too hard. Racing is too hard. So unfortunately, I think I'm gonna have to give up on racing. Went to Harbor Freight and I picked up the 6-ton press, and I think we're gonna become a hydraulic press channel. So this bad boy right here is a 6-ton hydraulic press that I picked up from Harbor Freight. It's kind of a more bottom of the barrel thing, but I didn't have a ton of money. But once we sell the M3, since this is the new star of our channel right here, maybe we can go pick up one of those nice 200-ton hydraulic presses with the money that we'll get from that car right there. Just like a ship, you would typically want to christen something like this with some nice alcohol to start off the channel, so I was thinking we'd crush a nice bottle of wine or something. But the only alcohol I have around my house is liquor that I don't really want to crack open, because I only crack it open when I'm working on my buddy's
Super awesome
240SX. So today we're going to start by crushing some water just to kind of get the idea of christening it. Plus, it's not that messy. Alright, so I'm expecting this bottle of water to shoot out the cap, so I've got it pointed out of the garage. Hopefully it doesn't shoot in the garage, but I'll be behind it just in case. This is a hand pump hydraulic press, unlike the fancy ones where you push a button, so I'm going to have to stand behind it. But I'll speed up that footage for you guys. Here we go. Christening of the new hydraulic press for our new hydraulic press channel. Oh, and it goes out the back. Of course it does, right at me. I know, not the most impressive thing to crush, but it's just the first thing. It was a christening, but it exploded out of the back and landed all over my foot. And it went all the way down in the garage, all the way to over here. Okay, I've got a crazy idea, but hear me out. This might just work. But what if we tried to push the bearing in with the hydraulic press? I pressed it in the wrong way. I'm so f***ing stupid. I'm so glad that we were able to salvage the channel and my racing career by pressing them in with the hydraulic press. That was a lot more work than I had expected, and I am so glad I'm not doing that for every video. I don't think I could do that for every video, but as you can tell, I got them both all the way in there, and they both came out looking mint. Now that I've sucked all the joy out of my day, we're gonna go ahead and shove these on here and hope we don't have any more problems. Comes in 3 parts. There's a little black part right here. It's the part that goes on there. Then there's a blue sleeve that goes behind it. And then the whole assembly slips on after that. I had it backwards, but you get the idea. The whole thing slides on after that. I'm gonna go ahead and lubricate this myself. It shouldn't have any movement, but if it does, this will help it from wearing out too easily. Plus, it'll help it slide on a lot better. So greased it up, and then you take this little guy, you put him on here, and ground control comes with this handy little tool, which, as you can see, has got multiple layers in here, which slides on there, and then you're supposed to just hit that with a hammer to help slide this all the way on. You want it all the way on there, or you're gonna have fitment issues. Okay, I lubricated this as well so that this slides on there pretty easily. I'm going to test fit it before I bother fully fitting it on there, just because I want to make sure that it fits. Do not hammer on the red piece or you will break that blue nylon bushing. Ask me how I know. Okay, just as I expected, this one's going to give me problems. So I pulled the black piece all the way off because it wasn't going on any further. And it wasn't fitting into the holes because there just wasn't room for it. And it's eating into the metal here, which is what's stopping it from going further anymore. So I'm going to file that down because I need it to go further. And it needs to go further in order to fit. And that's kind of really the only option I have with the way it's designed. Filed it down as much as I could. Hopefully I don't need to file it down more. I guess I could probably figure that out if I had to, but let's re-grease this and see if it fits. That looks like an improvement to me, but let's see. Oh. Okay, that fits. It fits, so that means I don't have to pound the black thing in any further, which is a huge relief. Okay, so awesome. Now that that fits properly and I don't have to file anything more down, the only thing left to do with this guy is torque that down to 44 foot-pounds. I have my torque wrench here preset to exactly that. There we go, taken care of. Now let me explain the situation with the other one. Okay guys, this is the nighttime version of me. I got food, I took a shower, I'm a lot more relaxed. That job was extremely stressful. I had nothing but issues, and you could probably tell how exhausted I was in the clip of me installing it. But I did say I was going to run over the passenger side over there for you, and the issue comes down to this. You probably can't see that well given the lighting that we have here, but I did indeed break the ears off the little nylon piece that goes on the passenger side wheel. So that means I didn't finish up the passenger side like I did the driver's side. And typically I would just film it on a different day and just post it, and you guys would never know that it took me multiple days to finish a video. But unfortunately this video is due to go out after I'm supposed to get that replaced nylon piece. So I finished the one side. The process for the passenger side should be the exact same process. It shouldn't be any different. I do, however, want to address the brace here. I try to make these videos informative as possible with torque specs, just in case any of you guys are trying to do the same install yourself, because I hate looking up torque specs and I hate trying to find them. So I figure I throw them in all the time, but since I'm not finishing the install and putting this bracket back on the car, it's actually torque spec wise, all the bolts, every single one of them, is the exact same torque spec as the control arm bolts at 44 foot-pounds. You just need to go 44 foot-pounds and then turn them 90 degrees. They recommend replacing the bolts every time that you take them off and put them on. It's a race car. I'm not going to bother doing that. That's entirely your call. Also, with all those little bolts right there, they say 7 foot-pounds. I don't care. Just tighten them down very lightly because they'll strip. They're not important. They're just holding plastic pieces to that. It's not a big deal. Just make them go in tight enough. With all of that out of the way and finally done, I still got to do the rear control arms or trailing arm bushings on this thing. Unfortunately, I broke the tool to do it while I was doing the fronts. This is supposed to be part of this threading right here, which is completely ripped out, and it was welded in. So I figure out how to fix that so that I can do the rear trailing arm bushings. Anyway, I think that just about covers everything I had to say in this video. It was a lot harder job than expected, so prepare yourself if you are also doing solid control arm bushings. It takes a little bit of filing on that control arm to get the bracket all the way on to fit it properly. Anyway guys, I'll see you in the next video. You have a good one.